Sisters of Barataria, San Juan, of St. Augustine constituency and environs, a special good evening to each of you. Member of Parliament for Barataria, San Juan, my brother Saddam Hussein. Give Saddam a round of applause. And of course, to our distinguished leader of the UNC, the woman who will be the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar. My brothers and sisters, there is no doubt that this government is failing the children of our nation. And tonight, as a mother, I want to reflect on how deep hurting our children from the government's perspective will affect our future. There is no better way to invest in the future of a nation than through the children of our country. And there is no doubt that this Keith Rowley government is mucking it up. In the last 8.5 years, this Rowley-led government has messed up every area of children's well-being that the state is responsible for, every area. They have scrapped the progress made by the government led by Kamla Persad-Bissessar that put us on a world stage because of their incompetence. Our most vulnerable children with disabilities have been hit by this government's incompetence and carelessness. Do you know that parents, children with cerebral palsy were given a special allowance by the government led by Kamla Persad-Bissessar, and that this PNM government scrapped that allowance? There was a National Enrichment Center for Persons with Disabilities that was built by the People's Partnership government in 2015 to provide, rehabilitation services and so on for people with cerebral palsy, physical and motor neuron disease, hearing and speech disabilities. And when the PNM took up office, they refused to open that center for 3 years. And after protests by parents, they finally did open it. But last year, they come and throw the children out of the center, the cerebral palsy children. I want to commend MP Vandana Mohit, our UNC shadow for social welfare, and Mayor Faik Mohammed, with the guidance of our political leader, who came to the rescue of the cerebral palsy children to provide accommodation for those children to continue to get therapy. It was under the UNC that children with disabilities were given disability allowance. And at this time, I want you to stand in your numbers here in Barataria as we welcome the political leader of the United National Congress, the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar.
Trials and testings does come before blessings, but we have to be patient, yeah. Weeping and mourning in the night, but joy in the morning. But we just have to endure. You see, God, the when the night come, so you don't really need to lie down. Them say what goes around comes right back around. I go wait until the time come. So from sun up straight to sunset, you can catch a bus in a sweat. I must climb up. I feel like hope. Move any mountain, I trample any building like hope. Man better than monster. Dismantle any structure. Trample them, trample them, trample them, trample them. Reverse my shot and back up machine and step on my problems. Then what we gonna do? Trample them, trample them, trample them. Kick out them, kick out my problems, kick out my problems. You see, the Most High never give us more than we can bear, but He give us the strength and the will and the power and the courage to handle our problems through Him. So on the count of 4, I want everybody step on their problems. 1, 2, 3.
Ladies and gentlemen, the best Prime Minister that Trinidad and Tobago ever had, the Honorable Kamla Persad Bissessar.
Push you down so you get up. They have to wonder how you just get up. And every crack you see, you don't see through. And many help of God you will get through. Now everybody's love, I feel.
And just as the leader was entering, I was on the point that under the UNC, disability allowances were given to children and parents of children who qualified. And the parents were given food cards. This government has scrapped the food cards of many of those disabled children's parents and kicked off many of those children from receiving disability allowance. It was this Kamla Persad Bissessar-led government that created the Children's Life Fund. All you remember that? To help children who needed life-saving medical treatment abroad. Hundreds of children benefited, and they would have died otherwise. In 2013 alone, there were 103 surgeries performed under the Children's Life Fund. And under the PNM, we have seen a rapid decline. In 2019, only 13 surgeries were performed, 13. That is how much this government does not care about the children of our country. When it comes to education, the UNC government worked towards eradicating inequality in education, giving every single child a better chance. Under the leadership of Kamla Persad Bissessar, the United Nations, not the United National Congress, the United Nations recognized Trinidad and Tobago for providing free early childhood education for all, preschool education for every child. It was her laptop program that was one of those flagship successes that worked towards leveling the play field in this country, providing over 95,000 laptops to students. And our leader led a government that provided internet access to 75% of primary school and 100% of secondary schools. Let me ask you, Barataria, let me ask you, Trinidad and Tobago, how many laptops have been distributed to students in the last 8 years? But I bet you that every government minister who has a child, that child have a laptop. Because they do not care about the ordinary citizens. Our schools have been facing so much disarray. This government is not even capable of opening schools that were already built. They refused to open completed schools, schools that were 90% complete under the former UNC government. Just last year, the Minister of Education said that only 13 out of 80 schools that the PNM met under construction over a decade ago were open. Almost a decade ago, and 13 schools? Come now, man. Well, it can't be serious. Right in my constituency in St. Augustine, the Cure Presbyterian School, for example, since 2015, that school 95% complete, and the government refused to open it. Bush, rats, snakes, and all kind of other Balize vermin taking over the school. When we protest, they said they will fix the auditorium. More than a year now, that still can't happen. And the children are still in the old, choked up, pigeon-infested school. They are mucking up this country. And you must be ready to vote them out. You send our children to school and tell them, do good, excel in your work. But what's happening with scholarships? In 2008, the PNM government gave out 48 scholarships, and most of them were to friends and family. Ask the PNM Senator Laurel Lizama. In 2014, the Kamla Persad Bissessar government increased that to 470. And today, the PNM has reduced the number of scholarships again. The PNM started off in schools when they stopped giving laptops, telling you BYOD, bring your own device. So they start with bring your own device. But they will move just now to BYOF and BYOT. Let me tell you, In fact, they have moved to BYOF, bring your own furniture, because children in schools now have to carry furniture in schools. And with so many non-functional sewer systems in school, just now they will tell you, bring your own toilet. That is how bad it is in our schools. We are having students being bullied, sexually assaulted, beaten and hospitalized in schools now. Schools are not safe places. Today we have more unemployed parents, higher food prices and transport costs. And under the PNM, we have seen more school dropouts. And you're still trying to blame Kamla and blame the UNC? What we are experiencing now, brothers and sisters, parents, what we are experiencing is the social consequence of a failing education system caused by PNM incompetence. They are mucking it up. And if you, in your homes or any part of Trinidad and Tobago, care about your own children, your own grandchildren, you know it is time for the PNM to go. We are seeing that perfect storm created, and our children are going down the drain. Today, we see more and more children as victims of crime, children in at-risk communities falling prey to drugs, guns, and gag culture because of the PNM failure. In January of this year, a 14-year-old boy was identified by a newspaper as the main suspect in a double murder which took place in Benny Lane in St. Augustine, where 2 victims died of gunshot wounds. The article further stated that there were 42 children, ages 12 to 18, currently incarcerated on an array of criminal offenses, including robbery with violence, shooting with intent, kidnapping, and even murder. Our children are falling prey. How many of the 2,814 students that this Ministry of Education said dropped out of school during the COVID-19 pandemic has been reintegrated into the school system? Up to now, the minister cannot answer. The government knows that there are thousands of school dropouts, but they ignore the issue. Where do these children turn for support? Where do they turn for mentoring when they are on the streets? This government is allowing our children to fall prey to gang leaders. And just a couple of weeks ago, the minister told the country that between 2014 and 2022, there were 694 primary school dropouts and 6,828 secondary school dropouts. Who was in charge in that period? Under the PNM, we are seeing massive school dropouts and an increase in criminal activity. And there is a link. There is a link. And the PNM is mucking up our children's future. We have to vote them out. Today, we look at the state of things around us. Crime spiraling out of control. And rather than attack the criminals, the Prime Minister would instead attack the people who are speaking out against crime. I have reached out to the Prime Minister, the Minister of National Security, the Commissioner of Police on numerous occasions concerning the increase in murders in St. Augustine. And to date, nothing. We lobbied for pepper spray, and our political leader was a champion in speaking for pepper spray legislation. And you know, we clapped tonight, but when the PNM finally brought the pepper spray legislation to Parliament, to date, the public still cannot benefit, because the procedure to get pepper spray is similar to the procedure to get a firearm. And the procedure is so onerous that sometimes you wonder if it even makes sense applying. So while the country and the public is asking, what about our children? I ask tonight, what about the Children's Authority? In face of this government's incompetence, how long has the Children's Authority been complaining about the lack of resources and government support? Recently, the acting director of the Children's Authority said that low salaries and staff burnout was one of the reasons that the Children's Authority was understaffed. Do you know that out of 942 workers required, the Children's Authority, as of February 15, 2023, had only 236 staff members? So where are we going with that? Once again, we see the lack of compassion and care from this government in dealing with the children of our country, children who desperately need help. If the authority is suffering, one can only imagine the struggles of our children's homes, children who are in homes that are not being adequately funded, allegations of sexual abuse and other forms of abuse of our children. And the mandate of the Children's Authority is to investigate mistreatment of children, to make applications to the court for protection and placement of children in the care of the authority, to establish safe places, to do assessment for these support centers, to establish a foster care system. How many of those things can they realistically do when they are so understaffed? My friends, it really pains me when I hear of incidents of our young children losing their lives because of this government. Just a few months back in September 2023, a 13-year-old child, Andrea Lallan, was murdered after she identified her rapists. Gunmen went into their home and shot the child in her head, killing her. They paralyzed her uncle and I think her dad, the girl's father was shot in his head as well. So it raises the question as to how reports of crime are dealt with by our country. My constituent, 16-year-old schoolboy Darshan Ramnath, whom I have known as a baby, was gunned down on the train line in St. Augustine. Another child, 14 years old, was shot and killed in Las Lomas. So many of our children losing their lives. And apart from protecting the children, which this government has completely failed to do, I ask, what happens to our children when parents are murdered? What financial, mental, and emotional support is provided by the state? We have so many people being murdered. What happens to their children? Do these children drop out of school? Do they end up on the streets? We are also seeing police officers being killed in the line of duty or risking their lives. We in the UNC, led by the Honorable Kamala Prasad Bisesa, have been calling for families of police officers who die in the line of duty to be compensated. And tonight, I make that call again. Tonight, my brothers and sisters, I remind you that the future of this nation is in your hands. The UNC stands ready to empower our children and to take this country forward. Let us put our shoulder to the wheel. Let us put our best foot forward and stand behind the Honorable Kamala Prasad Bisesa as the UNC returns to government. I thank you.